Hello and welcome. Polybius, a Greek historian from the 2nd century BC, developed a theory known as the anacyclosis, or the cycle of governments. He believed that governments naturally transition through a recurring cycle of different constitutional forms, each one arising as a consequence of the inherent defects of its predecessor. According to Polybius, the cycle begins with monarchy, which degenerates into tyranny due to the ruler's inherent flaws and unacceptable excesses. Tyranny is then overthrown and replaced by aristocracy, a government ruled by an elite class. However, aristocracy eventually devolves into oligarchy, where the ruling class becomes corrupt and self-serving. Sound familiar? The oppressed masses then revolt against the oligarchy, establishing a democracy. But democracy, in turn, decays into holocracy, or mob rule, characterised by chaos, violence, and the disregard for law and order. This paves the way for a strong leader to emerge and establish a new monarchy, thus completing the cycle. Polybius believed that the ideal form of government was a mixed constitution, which combined elements of monarchy, aristocracy, and democracy in a system of checks and balances. He saw the Roman Republic of his time as an embodiment of this mixed constitution, with the consuls representing the monarchic element in the Senate representing the aristocratic element, and the popular assemblies representing the democratic element. Polybius attributed Rome's stability and success to this balanced system, which prevented any single element from dominating and allowing for a longer-lasting government than its pure forms. It's important to note that Polybius' cycle theory was based on his observations of the political systems of his time, particularly those of the Greek city-states and the Roman Republic. While his ideas influenced later political thinkers like Cicero and Machiavelli, modern scholars and woke wankers continue to criticise. It's tricky to pinpoint exactly where we're at in the current cycle, but I'd say we're perilously close to mob rule, citing globalism's endless provocation of violence and orchestrated chaos. Even the most placid and complacent among us have a breaking point that snaps when pushed too far. This multifaceted aggravation manifests on numerous fronts, each becoming more ridiculous by the hour. Take, for example, the 0-point fake climate catastrophe madness that's lost all credibility but still dominates mainstream media's greenwashed fearmongering. Anyone believing that taxing an inert gas that's essential to all life on Earth can possibly fix anything, let alone non-existent issues, desperately needs a reality check. Another highly toxic issue alienating people across the board is the raucous insanity of gender identity that communities are increasingly sick of. Militant mavens of the Rainbow Mafia have inflicted incalculable harm to minority groups who hitherto existed harmoniously as part of society without external influence. However, unsolicited provocations suddenly created enemies who previously had no interest or leanings one way or another. Social media bullying and the endless doxing of anyone not fawning at the feet of rainbow flag bearers became insufferable after twisting benign indifference into intense dislike and deepening resentment. Before aggressive activism erupted out of nowhere, these groups and individuals enjoyed their respective life choices unhindered, unmolested, and in peace. The moment the Rainbow Mafia's polarising activism burst uninvited onto the scene, that calm serenity and tolerance instantly plunged into public controversy and heated disagreement. As previously reported, this calculated division is just another poisonous tentacle of globalism's control annihilation of our society, which continuously rears its ugly head wherever we turn, with its venomous critical social justice wokeism. One of the more egregious affronts to human dignity is the assault upon women's sports by deluded and mentally deranged biological males, impossibly declaring they suddenly became female. Doubtless many are convinced their self-delusion is real and are subsequently encouraged to demand special rights on the fabricated meme of gender identity. Worse yet, these radical ideologues arrogantly assume they have the right to control and alter language to suit their perverted version of reality. They don't. They never have had and they never will have. But they are the most eminently useful idiots to the satanic manipulators, meticulously orchestrating their every protest action and their tiresomely banal sloganeering. Just like the misinformed morons of XR, they foment argument and discord at every given opportunity, as though anti-social interference is a sacred duty. Less than a decade ago, no one had heard of these issues, let alone argued ferociously about how they supposedly impact all life on Earth. This fact alone demonstrates how effective globalism's social disruption has been and will continue, all the while unenlightened fad followers and woke ideologues fail to engage their innate critical thinking skills. Common sense notwithstanding, our satanic oppressors now attempt to revive the COVID scam yet again, running the exact same fear-mongering disinformation in an attempt to scare the incurably gullible into taking more weaponized injections. It's this perverted inversion that institutionally punishes those who courageously expose war crimes and genocidal crimes against humanity, while simultaneously protecting the socio-psychopathic pedophiles routinely committing those heinous crimes. In the case of Julian Assange, we've witnessed a decade of excruciatingly slow torture and graduated murder of a freedom defender who committed no crime whatsoever. Conversely, the mass-murdering war criminals of the deep state contemptuously scoff at neutered efforts to prosecute their overt criminality. While writing this report, the arch-villains of the WHA dictated their medical fascism from the 77th World Health Assembly that took place from the 27th of May through to the 1st of June 2024 in the International Geneva Welcome Centre, Switzerland. Throughout these meticulously disguised proceedings, its decorous halls echo the slippery propaganda of Tedros and his WHA crime gang, glibly articulating disinformation to obfuscate the massive crime against humanity that's unfolding. It's important to note this genocide has been ongoing for decades through the criminal corruption of Western medicine and mainstream media disinformation. This deadly duo conspired to convince hitherto healthy eaters to replace saturated fats with unlimited carbs, starches, and sugar-drenched processed foods. The current epidemic of obesity confirms how catastrophic the decades of this seditious brainwashing has proven. For the first time in history, the US Army cannot recruit sufficient numbers of acceptable body weight to maintain a capable defence force, with most European countries encountering the same problem. They've become too fat to fight, which was always the plan with captured countries sabotaged from within. Encouragingly, there's been a recent spate of well-produced documentary videos detailing how this socially engineered disaster has overtaken the global population. The good news is these informative video productions clearly demonstrate the simple and effective remedy of correct diet and exercise. I recommend the free viewing movie Fat Fiction, available on YouTube and other platforms, but there are many other noteworthy efforts providing life-changing information for those seeking to improve health and vitality. Moreover, they all expose the maliciously demonic intentions behind the establishment's covert perception management and deliberate poisoning of entire populations. I've reported at length on the myriad battlefronts assaulting us in every way imaginable, but once these multi-pronged attacks are identified and their objectives understood, they cannot be ignored and should therefore inspire appropriate remedial action. It's deeply unsettling to see how generations of returned war veterans are inhumanely corralled by the pharmaceutical industry's influence into dependence upon psychiatric drugs known to result in severe depression, self-harm, and rampant suicide. In short, once returned service personnel have dutifully served their cannon fodder purpose on the battlefield, they are conveniently killed off via lethal prescription drugs. Some will doubtless challenge that statement, but the evidence speaks for itself and is readily verified by the irreparably damaged survivors of this hydra-headed genocide. In retrospect, it seems the eminently prescient Polybius was bang on the money. Thank you for watching.